I was fading away in a hospital bed when Samuel Ellington, my childhood sweetheart, told the doctors to let me die. Then I heard him sigh to my brother, Jake. If your sister hadn't pulled us out of that fire, I never would have left Sarah to marry that awful woman. I thought I owed her. But Sarah told me the truth. Emma started that fire on purpose. She planned it all to tear us apart. I hoped Jake would stand up for me, but he just sighed. The doctor said this is from her bad burns. She brought it on herself. My sister was obsessed with keeping Sarah away from us. After we got hurt, she even threatened to end her life. I could have been with Sarah and kept her safe. Now she's stuck with that cruel rich guy. I'd rather we were the ones burned. Anything to stop my sister from ruining our lives again. They blamed me for everything. But it was Sarah who set that fire, all because of a sick game with her rich boyfriend. I lost my ability to dance to save them. And now, they said I destroyed their happiness. When I opened my eyes, I was back at that burning building. This time, I turned and walked away, heading to the dance contest I'd missed. If that's what you want, you can all burn. I saw Mark and Jake trapped in the flames, but I got in my car and drove off. Smoke filled my rear-view mirror. I didn't stop, I sped up. In my past life, I ran into that fire to save them, without a second thought. But I ended up burned all over, in pain, and died anyway. What a waste. All it got me was betrayal. I'm done fixing other people's problems. I made it to the dance competition, performed on stage, and felt alive, shining against real competitors. After the show, my phone was full of missed calls from my parents. The latest text: "Get to the hospital now. Jake's hurt." I looked at my smooth, unscarred skin in the mirror and felt free. At the hospital, they were rolling Mark and Jake out of the emergency room. They were wrapped in bandages, looking like mummies. Their screams echoed through the halls. Both sets of parents were crying, standing by their beds. How did this happen? Those burns look so painful. Doctor, give them something to stop the pain? The doctor shook his head. We can't give too much medicine yet. In their room, Mark and Jake were panicking. Jake. Mom, will I have scars? Please say I won't. Mark. Dad, why can't I feel my legs? Because the fire burned them so badly. The worst burns destroy everything, muscle, bone, all of it. The skin goes numb. When it heals, it's ugly, twisted scars everywhere. In my past life, Mark married me out of guilt. One night, drunk, he told me the truth. He touched the scars on my face, looking disgusted. Emma, you need surgery or something. I wear a mask to bed because seeing your face every morning is a nightmare. Your skin, it's gross. The memory made me furious. Both parents were falling apart. My mom's eyes were red from crying. Why were they even at that old building? Jake's always cared about his looks. I asked the doctor, they'll definitely have scars. There's no good skin left for fixing them. Mark's parents were angry. I checked Mark's phone. Some girl named Sarah told them to meet her there. She hasn't even shown up. I stayed quiet. This wasn't my problem, but in my past life, Mark and Jake blamed me because of Sarah's lie. As I was leaving, the doctor said, "We're taking off their bandages today." I followed them back to see. Their burned faces were revealed. Yellow pus, raw red skin, burst blisters. Mom cried and looked away. Dad tried to stay calm. "You'll be okay, boys. It'll heal." But they weren't fools. They saw each other's faces. Mark freaked out first. What do I look like? I need a mirror. Jake pushed the doctors away. I can't look like this. Mark started hitting his legs, ignoring his wounds. This isn't fair. Mom, Dad, wake me up. This has to be a dream. No one could calm them. Their ruined faces screamed at anyone who got close. My head hurt from the noise. I grabbed some rubbing alcohol from a nurse and poured it on their chest wounds. The pain hit them hard, turning their skin red, silencing their screams. I looked at Mark. Feel that. If you won't listen to the doctors, I'll come back every day to clean your wounds myself. Even the doctors looked shocked, but Mark and Jake finally stopped yelling. When the pain eased, Mark stared at me, eyes red. My legs, will I walk again? Thinking of my past life, I answered before the doctor could. Bad burns make your muscles weak. Even if you walk, you'll never be the same. And if those get infected, they might have to cut them off. Mark nearly fell out of bed, overwhelmed. I didn't move to help. Mom grabbed my arm. Emma, aren't you being too harsh? Harsh? Compared to them letting me die in my last life, this was nothing. They said they'd rather burn than let me ruin their lives. Well, now they've got what they wanted. Time to live with it. The parents were overwhelmed, trying to care for Mark and Jake while dealing with the mess from the warehouse fire. Whenever they visited, the guys refused to cooperate, making things harder. Both sets of parents begged me to take over their care. When someone knocked on the hospital room door, Mark and Jake tried to sit up, hopeful. But when they saw it was just me, their faces fell, and they slumped back down. I glanced at the untouched food on their nightstand and set down their new meals beside it. Jake looked at me, pathetic. "Emma, is this how you treat sick people? Why won't you help me eat?" I laughed, remembering my past life when I was in the hospital, too weak to move. The food sat by my bed, but I was starving and couldn't reach it. I begged Jake and Mark for help, and they both said the same thing. "Stop being so needy, just because you're sick. Skipping one meal won't kill you." So I threw their words back at them. "Stop being so needy, just because you're sick. Missing a meal won't hurt you." Jake froze, then turned away, angry. Mark was smoother. "Emma, my hands are blistered. Can you check my phone? See if Sarah texted me?" I said okay, curious to see how their weird love triangle worked. I opened Mark's phone and found a group chat with him, Jake, and Sarah. Both guys knew they were chasing the same girl, and they were fine with it, sending her sweet messages every day. Sarah would reply with one short message, and they'd go crazy, sending a dozen more each. But now, the chat was just their messages, unanswered. Sarah hadn't replied in a week, and she hadn't visited them in the hospital. I tried not to grin as I showed them the screen. No messages. She hasn't even responded. Their faces went blank. They looked at each other and gave weak laughs. Sarah's probably busy. She hasn't had time to check her phone. "Emma, can you call her for me? I just want to hear her voice. What if something's wrong? It was so clear when someone cared about you and when they didn't." They recited Sarah's number by heart. I called from Mark's phone a few times, straight to voicemail. Mark mumbled. Maybe she didn't hear it. But I smirked and dialed from my phone. Sarah picked up in seconds, her voice lazy. "Hello." Mark and Jake started talking over each other. "Sarah, are you okay? Why aren't you answering us? You didn't go to the warehouse, right? Where we were supposed to meet?" Sarah said she hadn't gone, and instead of getting mad that she stood them up, they just sighed, relieved. "Thank God." "Sarah, the warehouse burned down. Jake and I got trapped inside." Sarah's reply was a flat, "Oh." They waited, holding their breath. After a long silence, she said, "Anything else?" I couldn't help but smirk. I thought the burns were their punishment, but this was just the start. Jake looked hurt. "Mark and I are in the hospital with bad burns. Can you visit us?" Sarah paused, then said, "If I have time." Then she hung up. Mark and Jake went quiet, their faces pathetic. I got tired of looking at them. I took their untouched food and gave it to some stray dogs outside. Meanwhile, my dance competition results came in. I won first place in the Eastern Regional Championship. The judges told me to get ready for nationals. I cried happy tears when I heard the news. Dance was everything to me, but in my past life, my burns kept me off the stage forever. I fell into a deep depression, hiding my scarred face behind long bangs and slouching from shame. It took years for Mom and Dad to help me feel okay, facing people again. I'd buy tickets to watch other dancers, longing for the stage I'd lost. But Jake crushed what little confidence I had. He said, "Emma, give up on dancing. Maybe try acting in horror movies instead." With that face on a poster, no one would buy tickets. People want art, not a freak show. Mom and Dad yelled at him, but my dreams were already broken. Thankfully, I got a second chance. This time I was back on stage, shining. When my parents heard about my win, they smiled for the first time in weeks. They supported me fully and told me to stop going to the hospital. 2 weeks later, they said Mark and Jake were getting discharged. But the next day, I saw Sarah at our front door, with both of them. I stood there, stunned, staring at the three of them. Despite their scarred faces, Jake and Mark were glowing with joy. They introduced her together. "This is Sarah, the girl you spoke to on the phone. Sarah didn't just visit us. She feels bad and wants to take care of us." Then, in front of both sets of parents, they declared, "Mom, Dad, Sarah means everything to me. She's the love of my life. Please treat her like family." The parents weren't happy. It was obvious why. Both guys were crazy about Sarah, but who could accept such a strange relationship? Plus, everyone knew the fire happened because they went to meet her. I glared at Sarah, who wore a fake smile that didn't fool me. In my past life, I only found out after I died that Sarah started the fire and blamed me for it. Just a month ago, she was cold as ice to them on the phone. Could a fire really make her care all of a sudden? I didn't believe it. Jake turned to our parents. Mom, we figured it out. Sarah will stay at Mark's house on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and at our place on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Sundays, we'll all be together. Can you set up a room for her? Our parents' faces twitched. They were open-minded, but not that open-minded. As expected, they said no right away. Jake, you're not even dating her. Having her move in wouldn't be right for her reputation. Jake threw a fit. I'm already a mess, and you won't even do this for me? Am I really your son? I laughed inside. He wasn't. When I was little, I begged for a brother. That's how Jake came to us. He was a sick kid no one wanted in foster care. Mom and Dad spent months getting him healthy, paying for doctors and care. But all their love turned him into a selfish, ungrateful person. Our parents didn't want to upset him, so they kept saying, "Yes, of course you're our son." I remembered what Jake said at my deathbed in my past life. If Emma hadn't hated Sarah so much, keeping us apart after she saved us, I could have been with Sarah and protected her. I wish every day that Emma had died in that fire. With that in mind, I stopped our parents' argument. Didn't we keep that extra apartment? Since we can't agree, why doesn't Jake move out? He and Mark can figure out their schedule with Sarah. Jake's eyes lit up, but our parents frowned at me. I gave them a look, and they backed down. Jake was always selfish, blaming everyone else in my past life. To keep him from resenting our parents, it was better to let him do what he wanted. I also wanted to see what Sarah was planning. Could their weird three-way relationship actually work? Jake was adopted, but Mom and Dad always treated him like their own. I stayed out of their drama. As long as Jake didn't hurt our parents or our family, I was fine. Besides, nationals were coming up and I was practically living at the dance studio, perfecting my routine. But less than a week later, both sets of parents sat me down, looking grim. "What's wrong?" I asked. They sighed together. Jake and Mark, what else? They used to be best friends, but now they're fighting over Sarah. I saw it coming, just not so soon. Mom said, "Emma, can you talk to Jake? He's always listened to you." I shook my head. I wasn't getting dragged into this again. No one can fix their relationship mess. They both want Sarah, let her choose. The parents were shocked, but what could they do? Mark's dad was furious. If he wasn't so hurt, I'd knock some sense into him. This is humiliating. I stayed quiet. Knowing Mark's obsession, he'd see anyone in his way as an enemy. Sure enough, word came that Sarah chose Mark. They were getting engaged. Jake locked himself in his room for 3 days, refusing to eat. Mark was thrilled, but his parents looked miserable. I asked what was wrong. Sarah agreed to marry Mark, but only if he gives her half the family's cash and 2 houses up front, Mom said. And she wants a wedding before they officially register the marriage. She says she needs to test Mark for a year first. Mark's parents said no at first, but he threatened to stop his medical treatment if they didn't agree. He's their only kid. They couldn't let him die, so they gave in. I raised an eyebrow, thinking of the rich guy Sarah married in my past life. Was she still after him? Why mess with these two, then? The only reason I could think of was money. Before I could say anything, Jake stormed into the house, eyes red with anger. He glared at our parents. "Sarah would have chosen me if you weren't so stingy. Mark's parents support him, but you hold me back and make me lose the person I love." Our parents tried to reason with him. "Jake, this whole thing is unhealthy. Even if you married her, you wouldn't be happy." But Jake was stubborn, like in my past life. He screamed, "I don't care. You brought me into this family, so you should back me up no matter what. Why did I get stuck with parents like you? I hate you." I marched over and slapped him hard. "Talk to Mom and Dad like that again, and you're out of this house." My parents looked crushed when I turned around. It seemed Jake wouldn't be part of our family much longer. I went to nationals. The other dancers were amazing, and I was nervous. I threw myself into practice, day and night. 10 minutes before my performance, I got a voice message from Mark. His hands were probably too bandaged to text. "Hey, Emma, heard you're at a dance competition. Good news, Sarah and I are getting engaged tomorrow. I'll save you some candy." I rolled my eyes, tossed my phone aside, and stepped onto the stage. The lights shone bright, and as the music started, my body moved perfectly with the rhythm. All my practice paid off. I hit every step, despite my nerves. My dress flowed with each leap, glowing under the spotlight. Jake, Mark, Sarah. I forgot them all. I just wanted to reclaim what I'd lost in my past life. When I finished, the room was silent. My heart sank, but then a judge started clapping. Soon, the whole crowd joined in. Tears filled my eyes. For the first time, even the air felt sweet on my way home. I couldn't wait to tell Mom and Dad, but when I got back, Mark was there. He was smiling, but when our eyes met, he froze for a moment. I frowned. What are you doing here? Mark's injuries weren't as bad as they could have been. His legs were burned, but not ruined. He could stand now, though he limped awkwardly. I stopped a good distance away. When I didn't come closer, he hobbled toward me, glancing up nervously every few steps. Emma, why didn't you reply to my message? I almost laughed. Forgot. What do you want? His wounds were still healing. He pulled out a small box of wedding favors. I got engaged. You missed the candy. That's it? I was eager to get home and share my news. I'm not eating sweets right now. I started walking toward the house. But then Mark said something ridiculous. Emma, stop acting like a kid. I know you've always liked me, but it's never happening, so are you going to ignore me forever? What? I stopped, turned slowly, and stared at him. You're delusional. Say something that gross again, and I'm telling your fiancé. I rushed home and told Mom and Dad all about my dance competition win. They were so happy for me, but I could tell something was bothering them. What's wrong? I asked. They hesitated, but Mom finally spoke. It's Jake. When Mark and Sarah got engaged, Jake lost it. He screamed at us, asking why you weren't the one who got burned. Mom grabbed my hand, tears in her eyes. Emma, you know we've loved Jake like our own since we adopted him. You're both our kids. How could he say something so cruel? I wiped Mom's tears as Dad shook his head. We raised an ungrateful kid. That Sarah girl has him under some kind of spell. She's engaged to Mark, and Jake's still chasing her like a lost dog. We plan to split the family business evenly between you two, but how can we trust him now? I stayed quiet. In my past life, Jake was fine letting me die. Now, he might turn on Mom and Dad too. Keeping him around was risky. I knew they couldn't do it themselves, so I said, Jake's clearly unhappy here. Maybe it's time to let him go. We've done enough for him. Mom cried, burying her face in Dad's shoulder. I decided to handle it and called Jake home. Even then, Mom and Dad couldn't be harsh. They cut ties but gave him $1 million. Jake, we never told you, but you're adopted. You're not our biological son, they said. This money will keep you set. Take care of yourself. We're not family anymore. Jake took the cash, laughing bitterly. You're making up lies just to keep me from Sarah? No one in this house ever cared about me. He grabbed the money and stormed out, slamming the door. Mom and Dad were heartbroken for days. To cheer them up, I took them to some out-of-state shows. After 2 weeks, they started smiling again. But when we got back, we learned the Ellingtons were selling company stock. Since our parents were old friends, Mom and Dad went to check on them. Mark's dad looked crushed. It's for the wedding. I was confused. A wedding costs that much? They showed us a thick binder of Sarah's demands, a custom designer dress, a huge pink diamond ring, and a venue that cost $2 million to rent. I nearly choked. Even with money, the Ellingtons couldn't afford this. Here's the worst part, Mark's dad said. They're spending all this but won't legally marry. Sarah's not even family yet and she wants to blow $30 million. If this falls apart, we're ruined. Mom asked, and Mark's okay with this? His parents nodded, looking defeated. After we left, Mom was stressed. What's so special about this girl that's got both boys acting crazy? I grabbed my things and said, they're adults making their own bad choices. We're staying out of it. Someone bought the Ellington stock quickly. The company Mark's dad built was now mostly owned by strangers. Around the same time, my nationals results came in. I won first place. I was thrilled, jumping with excitement. My performance video went viral, hitting 1 million views in an hour. Mom and Dad were overjoyed, watching it over and over. My friends kept dragging me out to celebrate. One night, we were partying and I got a bit tipsy. I stepped outside for air and saw Sarah, who was supposedly busy planning the wedding, getting out of a fancy car. When I saw who she was with, I nearly laughed. It was just like my past life. Sarah was still sneaking around with that rich jerk she married before. I followed them across the street to a hotel, staying out of sight. I overheard Sarah's fake sweet voice. Babe, I've got 30 million now. Will your parents let us get married? The guy laughed. If they knew how you got that money, they'd freak out. Sarah didn't care. I earned it. You don't know how gross it is to see his burned face every day. Once I get more out of him, I'm done. Then we can get married, right? That sobered me up fast. Mark was being played, losing his family's fortune for nothing. But I wasn't getting involved this time. I went back to the party and stayed out late. The next morning, sirens woke me up. An ambulance was at Mark's house. Mom and Dad had already rushed over. I watched them wheel Mark out, unconscious, his parents crying as they climbed into the ambulance. Sarah just stood in the doorway, watched for a moment, then went back inside. When my parents returned, they shook their heads. Mark's burns got badly infected. He had a high fever and started seizing this morning. The Ellingtons gave Sarah everything to take care of him, and now he's in the ICU. The wedding's supposed to happen soon. What a disaster. I stayed quiet, sipping coffee by the window, watching the Ellington house. Right on cue, that rich guy showed up less than an hour later. Mark's infections got so bad they had to amputate his legs. Mom and Dad dragged me to the hospital to visit. Mark was sitting up in bed, staring blankly out the window. My parents tried to cheer him up, but he kept giving me strange looks. Mr. and Mrs. Pierce, can I talk to Emma alone? They stepped out. Mark was quiet, then said, I saw your dance video online. It was amazing. I nodded. Thanks, I said, keeping my tone cold. He gave a bitter laugh. When did we become strangers? He looked at me like he used to, seeking comfort, but I turned away. Mark seemed shocked. A tear rolled down his face. I must look like a monster now, huh? They're cutting off my legs, Emma. I'll be in a wheelchair forever. I can't even walk. At least you're marrying the love of your life, I said flatly. Stop worrying your parents. Focus on getting better, so you can be a good groom. I turned to leave and ran into Jake, who was also visiting. I overheard them arguing in the room. You're done, man. What can you even give Sarah now? Just let her go to me. Mark's legs couldn't be saved. The amputation happened quickly. He was stuck in the hospital for weeks. By the time he got out, the wedding was near. His parents said Sarah was never home, gone all day. To keep her around, his mom even gave her a family heirloom bracelet. But the night before the wedding, Mark showed up at our house in his wheelchair. His burned face looked eerie in the dark. Emma, want to go for a walk? I walked ahead as Mark struggled to push his wheelchair behind me. After a bit, he called out, Emma. I turned, my face blank. Hurry up. His eyes were teary before he even spoke. Emma, I can't get married tomorrow. I wasn't surprised. Sarah was always going to take the money and run. It was just a question of when. I didn't expect Mark to figure it out, especially in his state. He choked out, tomorrow's supposed to be my big wedding, but I'm not the real groom. Sarah's been playing me. She's with some other rich guy. I kept my expression flat. How'd you know? I checked her phone. That's when I found out she started that warehouse fire. She fell for a guy way richer than my family. He thought Jake and I were pests, so he bet her she couldn't destroy us. His voice shook. Jake and we were just her tools to get to him. I already knew this, but hearing Mark say it still stung. Part of me wanted to tell him he deserved it, thinking back to my past life. But if I hadn't died so horribly back then, I wouldn't have this chance to chase my dreams now. The past was done. I was at peace and wanted to focus on my own life, not their drama. So I said, Sarah's your choice. Figure out how to keep her. It's late. Let's go. I started walking home, but Mark's next words stopped me cold. Emma, you were at the fire, weren't you? Why didn't you save us? What? I spun around, unsure if Mark had been reborn like me or if Sarah's betrayal had finally opened his eyes. Hiding my disgust, I listened as he continued. I can't do this. I don't want to marry Sarah. I'll let Jake have her. But could you give me a chance? Maybe we could. I cut him off. Stop. I glared at him in his wheelchair, throwing his old arrogance back. Mark, look at yourself. How desperate are you to say something like that? Hurt flashed across his face, but I walked away. Mark wasn't worth my time anymore. That night, I was thrilled, wondering how tomorrow's perfect wedding would fall apart. I fell asleep at dawn, but I didn't wake to celebration. Police sirens and screams from the Ellington house jolted me awake. A cop shouted through a megaphone, Mark Ellington. Witnesses saw you commit murder in your home. Come out with your hands up. Mark's mom collapsed on the front steps, sobbing, while his dad stood frozen in shock. Neighbors crowded around, whispering. One said, trembling, I got up at 3 a.m. to use the bathroom and saw him through my window. He was hacking that woman to pieces, blood everywhere, her head nearly off her body. His burned face, it was terrifying. Then the Ellingtons' door opened. Mark rolled out in his wheelchair, and the crowd gasped. He confessed calmly she deserved it. She betrayed me. Before the police could move, Jake rushed through the crowd and knocked Mark out of his wheelchair. You monster. You killed my Sarah. How could you do that to her? My parents were horrified. The cops restrained Jake and hauled Mark to jail. He was going away for life. Mark's mom kept collapsing in grief, but his dad snapped. Enough. Stop crying. Our son was a curse. We gave him everything, and this is what we get? Let him rot in prison. My parents were shaken for days, saying, Mark used to be such a good kid. How did this happen? A few days later, Jake showed up at our door for the first time in ages. He'd learned the truth about Sarah and seemed to realize his mistakes. Mom, Dad, I was awful. I messed up. I'm sorry. He wanted to come back, but my parents shut him down. Don't call us Mom and Dad. We told you, you're not our son. Jake looked stunned. That's not true. You were just teaching me a lesson, right? They shook their heads and had security drag him out. Jake yelled, Even if you hate me, I need money. I gave everything to that liar. Emma, help me. No one responded. After Mark killed Sarah, life settled down. Mark's parents were broken for a while, then left town to heal. I dove back into my dance career, and my parents returned to their normal routine. A month later, the hospital called. Are you Jake Pierce's sister? His burn injuries are badly infected, and he's critical. We need someone to authorize surgery now. I said calmly, No, we're refusing treatment. I hung up, walked onto the stage, and felt the spotlights hit me. In that moment, my life was perfect.